Again, we have another young man who is refusing to grow up. Again, we have another young man who is refusing to leave college. We already have Diego Pavia begging not to enter the real world. We already have 2, maybe 3 dozen college football players who don't want to get a real job. And now we have Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback at Ole Miss, begging for another year of eligibility. It has gotten so bad in college football, we've got dudes begging to stay in a dump like Mississippi. Look, I get it. I understand wanting to stay in college for as long as possible. And I damn sure understand not wanting to have a real job. No disrespect to all the hardworking people working a 9-to-5 job. I'm sure some of you guys really enjoy your work. But for Uncle KC, a 9-to-5 job sucked donkey dick. That lifestyle was absolutely miserable for me. So I understand that it's not exactly appealing to go from playing collegiate football to go from the adulation of 70, 80, 90,000 people every weekend. I understand that it sucks going from that life to turning in TPS reports to Bill Lumberg. But there just comes a point in every young man's life when it's time to grow up. And for a lot of these college football players, that time is now. And again, I get it. I can relate somewhat to what they're going through. When I was their age, I didn't want to leave college either. College was great. I loved the college lifestyle. Outside of classes and doofus professors interrupting my schedule, I was living the dream. Like most of these star athletes, I didn't have bills. I didn't have responsibilities. My biggest concern, my biggest worry was how my intoxicated ass was going to get home. Other than that, I didn't have a care in the world. And the reason I didn't have a care in the world is because I was living off of someone else's money. I was living off the Bank of Platt, which is my dad. But after my 2nd or 3rd senior year, Platt finally said, enough is enough. You're on your own. He gave me 2 semesters to graduate and get a real job. Whether I graduated or not, I was getting a real job because the Bank of Platt was officially closed. It was a drastic change, and change can often be scary, but it was a necessary change. The difference, though, between a young Uncle KC and these young football stars who are approaching the end of their college careers, I was graduating and entering the real world with the chance of making significantly more money. These dudes are graduating. Well, hopefully they're graduating. Whether or not they are really doesn't matter. With or without some doofus degree, they are leaving college with the disappointing reality of making significantly less money, which is why these 22, 23, 24-year-old men are begging to stay in college. In the NCAA, they have no one to blame but themselves, because the NCAA is doing a disservice to these young men, and they're setting them up for disappointment and failure. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about Steve Kerr potentially opening the NBA up to a lawsuit. One of the best coaches in the league is becoming a serious liability. Steve Kerr used the NBA platform to slander federal agents, and he falsely accused ICE agents of murder. He should have listened to the wisdom from Laura Ingraham. This potential lawsuit, it could have been avoided if Steve Kerr had shut the hell up and dribbled. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description of the pinned comment below. Subscribe to the second channel. Thursday night, Ole Miss lost in the final seconds to Miami. After the game, Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss had tears in his eyes. Most people thought that he was emotional because he lost his chance of competing for a national championship, but I think he was emotional because he lost the opportunity to make $5 million. I don't know about you guys, but if I had the chance to make $5 million and some bureaucratic organization took that chance away from me, I would be crying too. Trinidad Chambliss asked the NCAA for a 6th year of eligibility. 6 years? This dude's trying to stay in college for 6 years? Well, Uncle KC, a lot of people stay in college for 6 years. Yeah, they're called lawyers. They're not football players. Hell, most star athletes, they're begging to get the hell out of college so they can go establish their careers in the NFL or the NBA. Cooper Flagg wasn't trying to stay in college. These 18, 19-year-old kids in this upcoming loaded draft class in the NBA, they're not begging to stay in college. If you gave them the chance, they would drop out of high school and go straight to the pros. But dudes like Trinidad Chambliss, guys like Diego Pavia, who have absolutely no chance at playing at the professional level, it's not hard to understand why they're refusing to leave college. As soon as they step off the field, they're going from making millions of dollars to making minimum wage. That $5 million NIL deal that Trinidad Chambliss has, it doesn't follow him once he starts grilling wiener at 5-Star Franks. Trinidad Chambliss, he's demanding a 6 year of eligibility due to medical reasons, health reasons. When he was playing at Ferris State, what? Ferris State? What in the hell is that? Do they specialize in the circus? Imagine walking into the hospital for a scheduled surgery, and the surgeon tells you that he got his medical degree from Ferris State. Would you let him operate on you? I would rather the doctor tell me that he was educated at Boris College. KC, what the hell's Boris College? I have no idea. But I would much rather Boris perform my surgery than some doctor that was educated on the Ferris wheel. But anyway, I guess Trinidad Chambliss started his career at Ferris State. When he was playing there, he got injured, and he's wanting to use that time lost to injury to get an extra year of eligibility at Ole Miss. The problem is the NCAA, which is playing the role of the loving father telling their young son that it's time to grow up. Yesterday afternoon, the NCAA denied his request to remain in college. They told Trinidad Chambliss, "You're too old." My guess is Trinidad Chambliss is going to sue the NCAA. A judge will decide whether or not he can return next season. But this is another prime example of how the current NIL system is broken. There seems to be some confusion as to what the primary purpose of college is. College isn't the place where you go to make life-changing money. Hell, most of these kids, college is the place you go to spend life-changing money that you don't have. But seriously though, college is supposed to prepare you for the real world. The first 18 to 22 years of your life, you're living in this protective bubble. You're protected in elementary school, middle school, high school. Once you get to college, some layers of that protective bubble have been removed, but you're still not living in the real world. Those 4 years of college, they're designed to prepare you for the coming reality. With this current NIL system, how are we preparing these young men for the real world? In what world does an 18-year-old kid make millions of dollars a year? Hell, we've got high school athletes making $6 figures to play high school football. We have thousands of young men who are living an illusion. The life they are living is not real, and it's damn sure not sustainable. By the time they're 22 years old, reality finally hits. They come to the realization that the money train is rapidly becoming the Bruce caboose. And if I had to guess, most of them aren't prepared for it. Which means college is setting them up for disappointment. College is setting them up for failure. Can you imagine what it would be like to be Trinidad Chambliss or Diego Pavia? Can you imagine what it would be like to go from making $2, $3, $4, $5 million to making $40,000, $50,000? But KC, they're making life-changing money. They should be set for life. What 22-year-old kid is preparing for the future? When I was 22 years old, 30 seemed like it was decades away. Next thing I know, I wake up, I'm 41. If I had to guess, the vast majority of these young men, they are not being wise with their money, because at 19, 20 years old, you don't possess the one thing needed to be wise with your money: wisdom. And a lot of these kids, they don't have father figures in their lives to help them manage their money, help guide them. I met one of my good friends at my old job, started working together in 2013, and we've been friends ever since. I was the operations manager, and he was working out in the warehouse. He's about 15 years older than I am, and at the time, I was in my late 20s, he was in his early 40s. One day I asked him, "What the hell are you doing working here? How are you surviving off of $15 an hour?" In his 20s and 30s, he was working at a plant making great money. He was clearing $100,000 a year. One day he showed up to work. There was a lock on the gate. Literally overnight, the plant closed. There was no warning. There were no goodbyes. He went to work one morning and he no longer had a job. With a lot of these plant jobs, what you do there, your skill set, it doesn't really translate to other fields. He couldn't find a job at another plant, couldn't find a job matching his old salary. Eventually, he got back on his feet, doing great today, but I remember him telling me all those years ago, the worst part wasn't losing the job. The worst part was being used to making six figures and dropping down to 30 grand a year. Mentally, emotionally, it was incredibly difficult. And that is exactly what these college kids are dealing with. That is the reality that they're facing. This broken system is setting them up for disappointment. So it's not hard to figure out why they're refusing to grow up. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.